Coming to you from sunny South Carolina, it's the Palmetto Conservative Show with your host, Jim Lee. From the upstate to the low country, from the coast to Columbia, we'll cover what's right and uncover what's wrong in the Palmetto State. If we see it, we say it. We call it like it is in South Carolina. And now, it's the Palmetto Conservative Show. Let's jam.
Welcome into the Palmetto Conservative Show here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network. I'm your host, Jim Lee, part political junkie, part technology geek, part commentator, and sometimes snarky agitator for the application of common sense and the pursuit of critical thinking in the marketplace of ideas, particularly as it relates to the Palmetto State. I don't profess to have all the answers, folks, just an awful lot of relevant questions. Glad you're here tonight. Welcome into the 12-12-12 edition of the Palmetto Conservative Show. If you're listening to this, then we're waiting another 9 days to find out whether the Mayans are correct. Those of you like me are not going to be around to see the next time ever that the calendar repeats itself like this. But all that neat stuff, 12 being a somewhat significant number to folks, all the different things that occur in patterns of 12. We'll just call today a happy dozen day and move along. It's been a busy week again here in the Palmetto State as well as across the Fruited Plain. I hope things are well in your area. Usual and disgusting. Whew. Now, I was going to launch into a tirade on the budget negotiations, and that would be disgusting, but that really wasn't where I was going. The usual and customary disclaimer here on the Palmetto Conservative Show. Not here to just simply give a speech to display rancor or vituperation or to engender bitterness. I'm not here to throw about incendiary language, nor am I trying to incite violence in any way, shape, or form. However, I do want to inflame your senses in the hope that perhaps you'll join me in sharing in something that we desperately need in our political discourse, and that is more critical thinking. Well, where to go? I was looking through the Rush calls it his stack of stuff. Other talk show hosts call theirs. Tonight I just kind of feel like it's a pile of crap. I'd like to be a little bit more positive in terms of the fate of our nation and the fate of our state here in South Carolina. But beyond being here in the season of perpetual hope, my only hope comes from my eternal salvation and nothing from current circumstances as we find ourselves. The temporal circumstances certainly do not look particularly positive. And to that end, if you're here listening to me live, thank you for being willing to listen to this talk show host and not the 12-12-12 concert for the victims of Hurricane Sandy. If your home entertainment options don't provide you that, you're not missing anything because you couldn't see it anyway. But if you do have access to it and you've chosen to join in here and listen in tonight, thank you, and I appreciate that. Got a lot of territory to cover because, well, there's just never a dearth of information when it comes to stuff that we need to discuss. Rush has recently Mr. Limbaugh, has recently embarked on a theme that he uses called low information voters. Like the term, concept's nothing new. We do have a problem in the amount of genuine information that most Americans seem to possess. This past election, 120 million or so turned out to vote, but that left approximately 80 million eligible voters sitting at home. Now, how many of those eligible voters that sat at home were what Rush calls the low information voters, or those who really don't have a clue and really didn't harm anything by staying home, other than foregoing their right to participate in our republic. But that said, how many of the 120 million that turned out probably would have served the country better had they not? Because, quite frankly, they're ignorant as the day is long. And I've come to the realization, and they tell you in Radio School 101, the first thing you want to do is not to offend your listeners. And I'm assuming that if you're listening to this program, you are a critical thinker, and that you are actually interested in hearing views that may or may not agree with yours, but at least want to go through the exercise of or the opportunity to exercise some of your gray matter. But of the 120 million people that turned out to vote on November 6th, when we look at some of the resulting polling, where people are saying that while they definitely want to see taxes raised on the rich, the overwhelming minority believe that taxing is the only way to solve our problems, is a very, very small number, about 20%. Fully 60-some% of the people recognize that raising taxes is not going to solve our problem, that it comes down to spending. It's the spending, stupid. Unfortunately, far too many people appear to be unaware or unable to comprehend that point. But again, here we are, start of the show tonight. Let me take a deep breath and see if we can't move things into a positive vein. No, probably not going to happen. But tee yourself up. There's a lot of information here for you. Now, just in time for Christmas, and how many of you like to wake up on Christmas morning and receive gifts that you know absolutely nothing about? Real surprises, where you can shake the box and not really know what's in it, or really can't tell by the shape of the container that it's in, and you really have to unravel it to rip off the wrapping paper and whatnot, and you enjoy that part of it, even if you open it up and you find out that it's a book. And it's a book whose topic you may or may not particularly be interested in, but you know what? It's the thought that counts. The opportunity to open up the gift was exciting. Well, one of those gifts you're going to get to open up early. We've come to learn that, well, Obamacare is just the gift that keeps on giving. Because as Nancy Pelosi so brilliantly stated, we have to pass it in order to find out what's in it. We're still finding out what's in it. We just learned that part of Obamacare is going to result in an increase in your health care premiums by at least $63. Now, you can spin it any way you want it. It's not going to increase your premiums $63. It's going to increase the costs for insurance providers by $63. Now, for those who are not critical thinkers and can't follow this closely, if your insurance company's costs go up by $63, what do you think's going to happen to your insurance premiums? That's right. They're going to go up, probably by about $63. And there'll probably be some markup on that because, they have to administer the fact that they're now paying $63 more and want to analyze that and include that in their premiums and so on and so forth. So heck, it could be $65, it could be $75, it could be $100 more. We don't know exactly. But, why is that? Well, the increase is coming from the regulations that are being rushed out the door by the Department of Health and Human Services that, the authority was bestowed based on Obamacare to Health and Human Services. And they have a requirement that every insurance plan in America be subject to the $63 fee. And that fee is part of a fund to subsidize people with pre-existing conditions. those who are more expensive to cover, but whose costs must be transferred to healthier individuals in the new system. And think about that again critically for a second, because the requirements of Obamacare say that you can no longer exempt those with pre-existing conditions. They're going to come into the insurance pool. The insurance pool is going to have to cover them. They're going to pass along the costs for those things and to their subscribers. They expect that those costs are going to hit approximately 190 million healthcare plans held by individuals or their employers. And so, again, you can expect that those charges are going to be passed on down, and employees are either going to be shouldering a larger load of their healthcare premiums, which has been the trend of late, or if you're an individual who has your own healthcare, you can expect your direct premiums to be going up as well. The program, which is intended to help millions of Americans purchase affordable health insurance, reduce unreimbursed usage of hospitals and other medical facilities by the uninsured. So now we won't have that problem. You see, the uninsured will now be insured. Of course, we'll be paying subsidies for them to get their insurance. So the net of this is that we're still paying for it. And this is supposed to lower medical expenses and premiums for all. Of the total pot of money that's going to be raised from these fees, $5 billion is going to go directly into the U.S. Treasury to offset the cost of shoring up employer-sponsored coverage for early retirees. Really? So the goal of lowering medical expenses and premiums for all will result in them being raised for pretty much everybody. But don't worry. It's only temporary. You see, the fee is going to be decreasing year upon year until the additional fees are phased out in 2017, because by then people with pre-existing conditions will stop costing more money after that. Yeah, allow that to waft in the air for a second. People with pre-existing conditions will somehow stop costing more money after that. Now, I don't know what, institutions of higher education, Ms. Sebelius, the chairman, or the Secretary of Health and Human Services, I don't quite know where she went to school and where she learned reasoning and logic and whatnot, but there is no reasoning and logic in that. But wait, there's more. While the debate continues over the looming fiscal cliff, or as I've said for quite some time here on this program, there is no fiscal cliff. We went over any fiscal cliff quite some time ago. Where we're at is we're at the bottom of the fiscal canyon. And the question before us is whether or not we are going to put down our pitchfork and shovel, our pickaxe and shovel, and stop digging the canyon deeper, or whether we're going to try and find a way to dig ourselves out, to climb out of the fiscal canyon. But nevertheless, while all the kabuki theater is going on there in Washington about finding some sort of solution for the imaginary fiscal cliff, there's a problem in that there's going to be yet another tax. There will be an economic impact from letting the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts, the euphemistically labeled